To call in for today's show, you can do that by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, Bobby, at gmail.com. You can also view the program, if you would like, by going to the YouTube channel and then typing in Talktainment. Then you have to type in Talktainment number 2, then scroll down to radio and then hit that, and you're there. Hit the subscribe and like button there. We also like for you to do it this way by just going to the TalktainmentRadio.com homepage and hit listen live, and you're right there. Hit the subscribe and like button there. And you can do this. You can go to Facebook.com/Talktainment. You can hear the replay of the entire show. A lot of people like to do that. So you have various ways that you can tune into the program. Today's program is a good one, and I got on my Facebook account and told people that today, and if you've been reading the contemporary compensatory concept, the code book as we call it for short, there comes a point when it just starts to come together and you begin to really see it. And today's program is entitled Determined. Determined. You have to keep on keeping on. Determined what? Keep on in the pursuance of justice, which is what we all have to practice. That answers every problem that you could ever have, every single one of them. And Mr. Fuller will expound on being determined to do that, practicing justice, so that we can eliminate racism, which is white supremacy. Let me present to some. Oh yeah, let me do this. By the way, the donations now, we're down to $1,000. That's all we need now. They were slow coming in this week, so do your due diligence. Those who have already done that, thank you. But we need 1,000 more. I asked the question this morning, and that's what I was told. So do your due diligence to that. Okay, now let me introduce to some and present to others Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Mr. Fuller, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, you are coming in strong, loud, and clear. I have people on the outside who monitor the program, and they let me know if you're coming in loud or clear, or if there's a double thing going on. But anyway, you're loud and clear. This morning, Mr. Fuller, we're going to open up with being determined and how important that is in our pursuit of justice. And to kick it off, your compensatory definition of justice for those who are new to the program and for those who are not sure. Could you give the compensatory definition of what justice is and a little background as to why you came up with that?
Well, I didn't like any of the definitions that I found in dictionaries, and it was always vague when people talked about, well, we got to pursue justice, or we got to find justice, or we got to have somebody to treat us in a just manner. But it was always very vague because I was looking for the details. I mean, okay, so you're talking about, we need justice and whatnot. What are you talking about? And sometimes people would go to the Constitution and say, well, basically we're talking about the 14th Amendment to the Constitution in the Northwestern Hemisphere, and that is equal protection under the law. Everybody should be treated equally. And sometimes they would say equal justice. Well, how do you put any flesh on those bones? I mean, when do you know that you have it? What can you use to measure it by? We want justice. We want justice. We want no justice, no peace. These were slogans. But like what I've written throughout the textbook for victims of white supremacy, all slogans have to have, you might say, filling in the pie. You just don't have a slogan saying Black Lives Matter. You got to say, okay, then how do Black Lives matter? Matter by doing what? Matter in what way? And what has to be done to see to it or to explain exactly what that's supposed to mean, what that looks like by, Black Lives Mattering. Now, this is not to disparage the slogan or the title. You can call it a slogan or a title, but back in the 1960s, there were terms like Black is beautiful, Black power, and people with their fist in the air. But codification and/or, so we don't get into another thing about what is codification. It means the details of problem solving. That's basically what it is. That's basically what codification is. So if you're talking about justice, then I'm saying you have to have a definition. So I looked in the dictionaries at that time, and justice was associated with what they call, I will see this repeatedly in different dictionaries, fair play, terms like that, and similar terms. If anybody who is listening now just looks in a dictionary, if they have it nearby or later on, or they can punch it up on a computer, just see what you think about the way the term justice is used, what it's supposed to mean. So back in the 1990s, that's when I really, before then I'd made up a term called balance between people, but that's not explicit enough. What do you mean, full balance between people? And in my 1984 edition of the textbook for victims of white supremacy, that's how it's described. You don't see it the way it's described in the revised, or defined in the revised expanded edition, the updated version of the 1984 edition. All through the 1984 edition, it just says justice, balance between people, in parentheses. Balance. Okay, what kind of balance? What are you talking about? So I wasn't answering that question to myself. Nobody asked me, what does that mean? Because we have gotten in the habit of not asking what our words mean. I was that way for a long time. Someone would just throw out some kind of words, and we say, oh, that's what that means. And we would think about the definition that we are given to the words, and we say, now, wait a minute, I have this definition, but I don't know what the definition means. And there's a lot of words like that in the English language, and it's used that way by the white supremacists. So around about 1994, I believe, I said, I got to come up with a better definition and balance between people. And I don't like the dictionary definition, and I don't like my definition. It's okay for a door opener, like a lot of definitions are, just the first few lines of any definition, but I got to put a little more meat on those bones, or just come up with a better definition or an added addition to balance between people. So that's the background for that, 1994, because I found out that there was no legal definition for the word justice. And I said, there's no legal definition for the word justice, and so I didn't even understand why that could be. So I asked someone who was a lawyer, I said, exactly what is there a legal definition for the word justice? Because when you're talking about justice, you're talking about courts and all like that.
Yes.
So they got to have a definition. I heard about Black's Law Book. That's supposed to have all the definitions in it.
Yes, I heard about
legal
that.
terms. Yes. I've seen the book, but I've never actually possessed one. And so I asked the lawyer, what is the exact definition legally of justice? So we have something to work with.
Yes.
whatever the Supreme Court says it is, well, the members of the Supreme Court keep changing.
Mm-hmm.
All right? And then you got 9 of them, and sometimes they don't agree with each other. So I'm saying, oh, that's a sorry definition of justice. So, bottom line, fast forward. Over a period of a couple of years, I thought I could come up with one maybe in a few months, but it took me a couple of years. And then one night when I was half asleep, when a lot of things come to me, really, I got up in the middle of the night and I said, I'm going to write this down because I just thought of something. And so I put it in 2 parts. Justice. Guaranteeing that no person is mistreated. That's part 1. And number 2, guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. Now, breaking that down, most constructive help or guaranteeing not mistreated in what? In all areas of activity.
Mm-hmm.
And I already had that. Economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And so I wrote it down, and then, like I do, this is part of my writing technique, forming my ideas. I will write something down, and then I will come back and look at it maybe 2 or 3 days later.
Yes, sir.
And see if it makes sense. Because sometimes things make sense when you first write them. You come back and take a second look, and it doesn't add up at all. But sometimes it does. And this time it clicked. So, in my mind, at least.
Okay.
So I went with it.
All righty.
And ever since then, I've used that definition. And I've told people under compensatory law, now if anybody comes up with a better definition than that, any court, any lawyer, or whatnot, I want to know what it is. Because I don't think, at this point, it'll get any better than that.
Okay. All right. That sets the background for the word determined, which I'm going to give an example of. But before all that happens, let's take a phone call. Go ahead, caller. You're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Mr. Fuller, Mr. Bobby. I was just wondering if I noticed a lot of black folks, we have a hard time understanding white supremacy, what it is and how it works. We seem to be falling for the same tricks. We can't understand, the black faces up front, the Tyler Perry studios. We just can't understand that. I don't think a lot of us have took the time to step back and look at or ask ourselves who's really running it. As I've heard you say before, I just think a lot of times the promotions and the mortgages and the car notes, a lot of times that fools us.
Okay.
So I'm just, why can't we understand? I've only learned to understand by listening to Mr. Fuller, but a lot of us who have never heard of Mr. Fuller think that it's something else going on here other than what it really is when it comes to white supremacy.
Okay, so your question would be what for Mr. Fuller to answer?
Why can't black folks seem to understand what's really going on? I don't understand.
Good question. Mr. Fuller?
It's because we are trained not to understand. And not to understand what? It is a complete system. Black people, and I thought this way for a long time, that there are so-called racial incidents. That racism are incidents. In other words, somebody gets shot, or some black person gets shot. And so that's an incident. It was a white person that did the shooting, the black person is now dead. So, okay, well, that's another racial incident, and then another racial incident, and somebody used the N-word. I heard them the other day, and they used it on the subway and whatnot. That's another incident, and that's racism. We don't think of it as being a complete package, a complete government. the only real government on the planet.
Thanks for the call, caller.
In all 9 areas of activity. And even when you say it, people do not see it that way. Because I've been saying it that way for years.
Yes.
I say it's a total government. All right? In fact, some black people will say America is racist. And they still do it. Sometimes on this program. Okay? No. If you're talking about a world government, then you're not talking about America or Africa or Asia or Russia. You're talking about the system of white supremacy.
Yes.
That's the world government.
Yes.
There is no other government. You have to get it out. All these lines you see on maps, they mean absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
Because to the white supremacists, they mean absolutely nothing, because they're the ones who put most of the lines on the map.
They did. Thank you, brother, for the call. It was a very good question, and one of the reasons why we are focusing on the word determined. Let me do this. TalkTainMenRadio.com is a 24/7 no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news and lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, politics, and politics. So there are several that I'm going to share with you. Wiggins World with host Stacey Wiggins. This is Libby by host Libby Rand. And a conversation with Don Carina. Now, all of these shows are exclusive to TalkTainMenRadio.com. And all you have to do is just go to the TalkTainMenRadio.com homepage, click on programs, and then there you will see a list of all the programs that Talktainment Radio has. Now, it is up to you to give a sample listen to each one of those programs if you so desire. And that's how you determine if you like it or not. All that from TalkTainmentRadio.com. That's radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, and we are focusing in on the word determined. And determined means having made a firm decision or being resolved not to change it. What do you mean resolve? Deal with the issue successfully. Now, some of those synonyms might be bound, decisive, hell-bent, single-minded, or purposeful. And our purpose is to eliminate racism, white supremacy. And we focused in again on the word justice, which is Mr. Fuller just finished explaining. And then he explained the compensatory term of justice. And I wrote today, about that on this program today was a special program in that Mr. Fuller was going to break it down, what it means. And this is what I said before I took the call. So today, live at 9 a.m. on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. and co-host Mr. Bobby, heard on TalkTainmentRadio.com, Mr. Fuller will give you the true answer to solve every single problem that you can have right now. Many don't believe that, but you can solve it right now. And that is through justice. Justice. And you have to be determined to do that. Determined to do that. Focusing in on how to do that, which is why Mr. Fuller is answering your calls and concerns. If you don't do that, you'll have what we have right now. Meetings upon meetings. We had a meeting here in Columbus last night with the Democratic candidates. All up stage, but guess what? Not a single thing is going to be solved. Caller, you on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller. It's such an honor to speak with you, Mr. Fuller, this morning. It seems as if white supremacy is becoming more thoughtless and careless when it comes to the execution of non-white people. We constantly stand it all across the world, the news, the mistreatment of us and our being. So based on these executions of non-white people, do you think, Mr. Fuller, that white supremacy is trying to provoke us into practicing counter war so they can produce another physical war amongst us non-whites?
Do I think that they are trying to provoke us?
into practicing counter war so they can produce another physical war.
Well, they're always doing that, but they're not trying to, that's not their mission, to provoke us into counter war, because war itself to them is all about dominating and mistreating people of color. That's their whole package. That's their whole reason for being. That's their value system. That's how that's the adrenaline, you might say, the motor, the drive, the determination they have to do whatever it is they're doing. If they can't associate it with dominating and mistreating people of color, it's kind of like just an empty enterprise with them. That's the way they think. They measure everything by that. Everything. I mean, going to outer space, or making a movie, or writing a song, it's going to be directly or indirectly about the glorification of this thing called the system of white supremacy.
Yes, sir.
You take that away, and they see no reason for existing, because it's so firmly ingrained in everything that they do. Their economic system, their educational system, is all about white supremacy.
Yes, sir.
White supremacy. I mean, everything that they teach the black people in schools, in the colleges.
Yes, sir.
Actually, if black people are going to counteract that, I mean, you raise questions about what is being taught right there in your classroom every day.
Yes, sir.
When they start talking about, now let's talk about the Crusades of King Richard.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And you say, well, wait a minute, King Richard is doing what? All right. Take an interest in these things, because it's all attached, directly and indirectly, to the system of white supremacy. That's what all of it is about. Mm-hmm. You take that away, there's nothing to talk about.
Right.
Everything falls dead. That's the whole value system.
Right. And Mr. Fuller, you have spoken, to this, and you harped on it again this morning, and we're trying to just keep it right here. A system of justice, which you gave a compensatory, which I feel, and not necessarily because you said it, but after I have examined it, came up with, with that if you focus in on justice, and I looked at the title of the book, which is really outstanding to me. The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. Think about that. United Independent. That means you, me, independent code system concept. Taking into consideration what Mr. Fuller has indicated with his compensatory judgment. You go outside of that wall, and you're going to have what they want, which is confusion. And we don't need to be confused. Mr. Fuller, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. But I would like to say page 60.
60, okay.
Right. In the revised expanded edition. Now, this is also in the 1984 edition, but it's under economics, your first area of activity.
Yes, sir.
And it's the first thing in economics. That's why I put it there in the revised expanded edition. And it's about the use of time and energy. That's what economics is. That's a compensatory definition, one that I made up. What is economics? The use of your time and energy. It's not just about money. Money is a tool of economics. Money is worthless until somebody says what it's worth. Somebody like whom? Whomever has the power to say it and make it stick. That's money just lays there. It's just, gold, silver, whatever you want to call money, rubies, paper. But it's just what it is, a stone or some paper, until someone with power says, this is a medium of exchange. You can use it to get things that you want, other than having the thing itself. You got this paper in your pocket, or you have this card in your wallet or in your purse. Okay, what is this card worth? it's worth what somebody who has power says it is.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you could have 20 credit cards, you might say. Credit card means you have credibility, that you will pay for whatever you buy, that you're actually asking for a loan, okay? That's what a credit card is, and that this card kind of proves that you have a believability.
Yes.
That somebody will believe that you will use this card to give them more money for the use of this card in order to get other things. So the card is like money, okay? That's the way they work it.
Okay.
Why? Because someone with power says that it is. Otherwise, you just got a piece of plastic in your pocket that means absolutely nothing.
Okay, we're going to come back to that. Mr. Fuller, before I go to the Gmails, why does justice start with the individual?
Oh, it's supposed to. Everybody is an individual person. We usually think of the masses. Somebody gave us that term, the masses. So immediately, when I would think of that, and I imagine other black people think in those terms, that I just stand still and wait until a whole bunch of other black people come within view, and then somehow, magically, I have now something called the masses. If it's a whole lot of them, as far as I can see, I see black people, and then I say, now, we got the masses. Now, what are the masses going to do? Well, the masses are going to solve the problem of racism. That's who's going to do it. Mostly a whole lot of black people, which you can see, as far as I can see, you see black people all standing there. I mean, shoulder to shoulder. Packed as tight as sardines, okay? And somehow we got the idea that means power. Oh, we're all together. That's what we call it. Black people got to get together. We just got to get together. We just got to stop being so, all spaced out. No, it's just the opposite. Mm-hmm. You do just the opposite according to the code. You do space out and empower yourself as an individual person.
Thank you.
And stop thinking that you got to be standing somewhere in one place on some planet, shoulder to shoulder, looking up at the sky or down at the ground, or looking what we call forward. We say we're looking forward. We got to look forward to the future, all right, and build on the past. We got all kind of slogans for when we're standing shoulder to shoulder, and we are all together, stand a little bit closer. You're not close enough. I mean, you're not touching each other. You got to, okay, now, we're all standing here, okay? Well, in military terms, some enemy general looking at that, so all that is just a big fat target. I got them all shoulder to shoulder here. They were shoulder to shoulder on the plantation sometimes. I mean, depending on whatever I had them do. So now they're going to be, if that's what they call being together, all right, and being united, that's what they call unity. But see, the white supremacists say, I can have one white person walk into the midst of thousands of these dark-skinned people at 9 o'clock in the morning, and by 12 o'clock, he's got everything wrapped up, he or she. He's got them all following him or her. He wasn't with anybody. He's one white person. So how did that magic happen? That white person brought what? With him or her? The white code. That's what they bought. they wasn't standing shoulder to shoulder with nobody. You know, looking to the right and to the left and say, "Are you with me, brother? Are you with me, sister?" You know, and everybody's asking, you know, "Are you with? I'm with you. Are you with me? We're all together. We're all united." That's just a whole bunch of black people standing
Yes, sir.
in one place. That's all that is.
all
That
that
is
is.
absolutely nothing. That means nothing. You have to have a code of action for each person.
Thus,
Wherever that person is in the universe, not just on this planet, you know what? You have a code.
code.
And what does that code tell you? What to do about every situation that you're in. Because the concept is, and it's a logical, universal concept, when you empower each individual with a code, meaning what to do, what not to do. That's all a code is.
Yes, sir. And
What
that's
to do and what not to do in every circumstance. When you empower every black person, every person of color on the planet with a code of thought, speech, and action,
TSA.
that is power. Because when you empower each individual with what to do and what not to do in every circumstance, you have empowered all individuals.
That's beautiful.
So what we do not have is a code.
Right.
And that's why I've been trying to, with these textbooks that you can get by going to producejustice.com, a send-off message based on that, with the details in that.
Yes, sir.
I would say starting with economics in the revised expanded edition. You can just look at that and see what you think. Page 60, 61, and 62.
Yeah. See,
Those 3 pages. And there's 4 things on there. Just 4. Just 4 things on page 60. Since we're getting into the details now of determination. Determined to do what? You know, that's what we were talking about this morning. Being determined. Being persistent.
yes.
So it comes down being persistent and determined to do what? To practice justice.
Practice justice.
Okay, now,
Yes.
let's put some meat on those bones. By doing what?
What?
Fuller, you're doing this talking, Fuller, by doing what? If you have the textbook already, you can go to page 60, and it says, here's what you do. Just 4 things. You got to be doing one of these 4 things under the use of time and energy. Because economics is all about the use of your time, because that's really what you have. Time. You have time. From the time you were born, you got time. And you have some energy.
Okay.
So how do you use it as best you can in a prison system called the system of white supremacy? It says on page 60, produce, building, repairing, improving, and are cleaning those things that have a constructive value and using them for constructive purposes only.
Only.
Now that's number 1. Producing. Building. That first word. Look at that first word. Producing. And then the next one is building. Repairing. Repairing something. Improving. Of course, when you repair something, you're improving, being a little bit redundant there, but also to make a point. And are cleaning something that have constructive value. And using all of these things that you are producing, building, repairing, improving, or cleaning, using them for constructive purposes only.
Yes, sir. This is why, again, he said it right in the beginning. The united, independent, compensatory code system concept. Before we have Mr. Fuller talk about his book, we have to take this call. Go ahead, caller. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Mr. Bowie, Mr. Fuller. How are you guys today?
Good morning. Still learning. Go ahead.
I'm calling today. I wanted to ask Mr. Fuller if he had ever read a book called The Iceman's Inheritance, Prehistoric Sources of Western Man's Racism, Sexism, and Aggression by a suspected white supremacist named Michael Bradley.
The answer is no.
Okay. The reason why I brought it up is because the previous young lady who called was asking why we can't see white supremacy for what it is. And the inscription of this book really brought back to me the inscription of the book that says, "What is the hardest thing of all? That which seems the easiest for your eyes to see, that which lies before your eyes." And I wanted to recommend, this falls under VGQ, Mr. Fuller, that everyone who is trying to be on code, after they have finished the code book and after they finish the word guide, to pick up this book because it's written by a suspected white supremacist, because he gets into how racism is but of one predisposition that belongs to one race, and that only race is the white race. And I think it would be a good read for people to understand their thought process about racism so they can fully understand what we're really dealing with.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Mr. Fuller, you have a comment before we go ahead.
Well, I think that comes under BGQ.
Yes.
Anything that anybody, any of the callers, anybody who is listening, recommends that may be of constructive value, then that's what you're supposed to do. That's a part of
Yes, sir.
the poor uses of time and energy. Because I was just going through that. That's number 2. See, I gave you the first one, starting with the first word, producing.
Thank you, Carl.
Producing something of constructive value.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is number 2 of the 4 things? It says studying. That's what the lady is talking about. You study. Everything that you can get your hands on that has to do with solving the problem of racism, if you have time. When you're just idling by and then you don't have much to do and all like that, pick up some book that has to do with even the people who advocate racism. You want to see what they have to say. For sure. The people who support racism, the people who write books saying that that racism is a wonderful thing, and that slavery, was a wonderful thing, and that, there are some white people who have written books saying that the black people were better off being slaves than they were before they became slaves under the system of white supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great improvement over what they had been before.
Okay.
In spite of the brutality and et cetera like that, they just shoved that aside.
Okay.
And said, hey, black people made more progress under slavery than they had in the last 10 million years.
Okay.
So people ought to just shut up about it and let things just be the way that they are and keep it that way.
Okay. Mr. Fuller, let me interject this here because we've gone over the time. I have to say this about your book. But you've already done this and are doing it right now. So let me do this. Talk to him at radio. This is the portion of that where Mr. Fuller talks about his book, where you can get it in all the details, which he has been talking about for the last 10 minutes. So go ahead, Mr. Fuller, as you talk about the things that are in your book and continue with time and energy.
Right. You can get the book by going to producejustice.com. And everything in the book is directed to the individual person, not to something abstract called the masses. There's no such thing as that. That's something that's in our minds. We just see these people, like I said, shoulder to shoulder. That's how we see black people getting together. Because we were herded on the ships. We've always been herded like cattle. The ghetto is a herd. The cell block is a herd of black people. We think that is power. That's just a herd of black people. That's all. All under the power of racist man and racist woman in a system called white supremacy.
Yes, sir.
Now, the textbook for victims of white supremacy is written for the individual person. Get this in your mind. you don't look over your shoulder to see if you got any good buddies coming down, all ready and full of fire to help you. No, you are alone on that job or wherever you happen to be on the planet. And when you die alone. Don't get this illusion that I'm dying with my buddies. No, you dying alone. You always die alone. Just like you were born alone. Even if you're a twin, you are born alone. All right? Because you are an entity. You are a whole world within yourself. And you should have learned to think, speak, and act like it. So, the textbook for victims of white supremacy, you can get that has that type of the things that I'm saying in it and tells you what to do every day as an individual in whatever circumstances you happen to be in. So go to producejustice.com, and what will come up on the screen is the method for ordering. That's producejustice.com.
Okay. Now, Mr. Fuller, go ahead, continue with number 2 under time and energy. I think you were getting ready to say about asking questions and or
studying.
Mm-hmm.
The lady was talking about studying.
Yes.
She was talking about reading a book. That's studying. So that's something else you should be doing. It's just 4 things you should be doing the whole time you're on the planet if you're black. See, that's just the way I put it. 4 things. Just 4. Anytime you get away from those 4 things, you are not doing what you should be doing.
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
All right. So number 2, studying, writing, asking questions, and are exchanging views with others about all aspects of how to eliminate racism and how to produce justice
There it is.
in all areas of activity.
There it is. There it is.
Economics, education,
yes,
entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Okay. Now, I've listed number 2. Okay. Number 3, eating and sleeping correctly and only as necessary. Now, that's something we can keep in mind.
Yes.
We got a thing called Halloween. I just want to explain some things coming up.
Yes.
Children going from door to door. Doing what? Trick or treat. Something that shouldn't be anyway. We need to just bypass Halloween. All black people, forget it. It's not boycotting it. It's just bypassing.
Bypass it, yes.
Yeah, not using your time doing something else.
Yes.
Rather than talk about hobgoblins and black cats bring bad luck. See, that's what black people bring bad luck. Knocking on your door, you'll get shot.
Orange and black, the new jail cell.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Yeah.
Halloween. We don't need none of that.
Right.
Forget about that.
And could you
get away from teaching your offspring that all about Halloween?
Right. And number 4,
like monsters and whatnot. They've already made monsters and monstrosities out of us.
yes.
So we're going to dress up more like one and try to look more like monsters? No.
Okay.
I just thought that I'd throw that in.
That was good. Okay, and get this one in here since we're under the 4 things of time and energy. Number 4. Go ahead, Mr. Fuller.
Number 4. Engaging in sexual intercourse no more than 2 times every 7 days and using a minimum amount of time and resources in association with such engagement.
Uh-oh.
Now, that's gonna cramp a whole lot of people's style. But what's the purpose for that? To be what you call so-called moral? No. I'm talking about the use of time and energy. This is economics. See, and many of us get on a marathon sexual kick, and it's understandable. It's enjoyable. But when we get on it, what happens is we neglect to do number 1, produce. Or number 2, study. Why? Because we're too busy in bed, rolling around, having fun, endlessly, and neglecting to do the other things that need to be done. Next thing you know, you got an eviction notice on your dresser. In fact, a black lady once said, I heard her say this some years ago, said never have a man in your bed and an eviction notice on your dresser. It's either one or the other.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. If you got an eviction notice on your dresser, you're not supposed to have a man in your bed.
I told you that I love you. Now get out.
That man that you say you got is supposed to be out somewhere getting that eviction notice off of that dresser.
Yeah.
Rather than talking about, baby, I love you, and doing all that huffing and puffing in that bed with that eviction notice, saying you got to be out of here by 12 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That reminds me of that song I don't know why it corrects me, but remember, you said there was a song called I Told You That I Love You, Now Get Out.
Yes. Yes. It's not being mean. It's just taking care of business. Take care of business first, then you'll have a much better bed to be in.
Yes.
Okay? You get out and take care of business first. I mean, do the things on the economics. Use that time and energy to do something constructive. Then you have a beautiful bed and no eviction notice coming down the pike at all. Okay?
Yes.
Because you're doing constructive things when you're not, doing whatever's the other three things on that list.
Right.
Eat
Right.
and sleep correctly. And all is necessary. That's number 3.
Okay.
Number 4, sexual intercourse twice every 7 days, maximum.
Okay.
And that eliminates that long list you got of all those people that you got planned to get in bed with that week in that 7 days.
That'll close the first hour down, Mr. Fuller.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. TalkTimeRadio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. Miss Lance, we'll hopefully get to your question on the second part of the show. TalkTimeRadio.com, radio the way it should be heard.
Thanks for listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. Heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You've got the power. A reason to stay.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. Heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
All righty, TalkTimeRadio.com, second hour. We go where you go on the world's greatest radio. That is TalkTimeRadio.com. You are now in touch with The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. Today's discussion is about the word determination or determined, and we focused in on justice. And if you didn't get the first hour, Mr. Fuller gave a compensatory a definition of what that is to help us stay determined to do that. To do what? Justice. To eliminate what? To eliminate racism or white supremacy. And he has given many examples, particularly on page, I believe it was page 60, under time and energy. He really expounded on that. Donations. This is the donate hour. We're about $1,000 short. So please, ma'am, please, sir, go ahead and let's see if we can take that up or get that eliminated. I understand that donations were slow this week, so do your due diligence with that. Let's see, 2 more things here. Hopefully I'll get a chance to discover or to expose some adware apps that are on your phones, particularly if you have an Android. And maybe I'll get a chance to talk about what they're doing over in Sweden, which is chip insertion. Hopefully I'll get a chance to do that, but you'll really like or understand about these adware apps, what they are doing. And a lot of it are the same terms that Mr. Fuller has talked about, sneaking and hiding and all that kind of stuff, but we'll get into that. Okay, Mr. Fuller, this is a question from the Gmails. This is from Miss Lance. She says this, Mr. Fuller, I have a brother, only 2 years older, who is in a desperate need of the code due to his dysfunctional behavior. I've tried to introduce your book, Mr. Fuller, and the entire concept of the code to him, but instead of giving this vital information a chance, he asked me if Mr. Fuller is a white man and accused me of acting white because I use logic over emotion. In your opinion, Mr. Fuller, should I give up on my brother and let him learn the hard way?
The answer is no. That's part of the determination, persistence. But what you do is when you talk to him, don't preach or teach or even tell. You do what? If you're going to solve a problem. See, evidently you're presenting this as a problem, the caller. So how are all problems solved? Not according to Neely Fuller, but according to the laws of the universe. All problems are solved through the process of what? Questions and answers. So, what I would recommend, going directly, see, because codification is about doing something. Not just about how everybody feels and all like that. Doing what might work the very best. Okay, so you go immediately to the wants on page 171 of the textbook for victims of white supremacy, which you can get by going to producejustice.com. And that's page 171 of wants, and that's the recommendations of the questions to ask. But what I have there is, what do I want to do? But you can paraphrase that when you're talking to another individual. You ask, what do you want to do? Always start there. Everybody wants something. Mm-hmm. Every creature on the planet, every minute of the day, wants to do something. Even if you're sitting in a chair and you see another chair over on the other side of the room, and you got up and from the chair you're in and went across the room and sat in that other chair. Now, why did you do that? Because you wanted to do that. So why did you want to leave the chair you're in and sit in another chair? Mm-hmm. Well, you would say, oh, because that chair across the room looked like it would give me more comfort than the chair that I was in. So I'm going to try it. See, you satisfied a want. Every day, all day, a person wants to do. You want to catch the bus. You want to get in out of the rain. You want, you're in the dentist chair, and you want the pain to stop, all right? You want that doctor to do something, that dentist to do something to stop the pain right now. Okay, that's why you came there. Everybody wants something. Every minute, every creature, a fly, a bee, a bird, an alligator, wants something every minute of every day. So, the first question you ask your brother, in this case, to be specific, because everything in codification is about specifics, details. All right, question number one. What do you want to do? Not what I want you to do. What do you want to do? You don't want to hear me talk about racism and all this, so you don't. You don't talk about things. That's the first thing you don't do. You don't talk about something to a person when they don't want to talk about it. You ask questions. what do you want to do? Including what do you want to talk about? All right, if you want to talk at all, okay. So what do you want to do? That's number one. Number two, why do you want to do what you want to do? Because there's a reason why you want to do whatever it is you want to do. And you just wait for an answer. Don't interfere with the answers. That's another thing about codification. Once you ask a question, don't interfere with the answer. Wait on the answer and have another question ready. Not a statement, another question. What do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? That's number two. Number three, how do you plan to do what you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And wait on the answer.
Mm-hmm.
He might give you a long, drawn-out plan.
Mm-hmm.
Or he might say, well, I don't have no plan.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's his answer. Now, don't make a comment on his answer. Just say, oh, you don't have a plan. That's the only comment you can make. Because that's the answer. Stick with that. Don't argue about the answer or nothing. Just go to the what? Next question. And that's the last question, because it's just 4 questions.
Yes.
It's not 20. And what is the last question? What do you expect the constructive result to be of what you want to do? And after you find a plan for doing it. And just, whatever the answer is, then you say, well, okay, you told me.
Okay.
So, all right, now, that's it.
Okay.
And every time you see him, have those 4 questions ready.
Oh, got it.
What do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? How do you plan to do it? And after you do it, what do you expect the constructive result to be?
Okay. There you go, Miss Lance. Another question, Mr. Fuller, from Miss Greenidge. She says this. Mr. Fuller, have you looked into the use of magic by racist white supremacists that occupy and dominate groups such as the Illuminati and Freemasons? For example, the use of spells in entertainment to directly influence society through social engineering. Also, in your book, you mentioned to practice eclectic pluralism. However, some tenets of faith are drastically different to one another and cannot be reconciled. In this case, what takes precedence, i.e., monotheism or paganism, in the quest to uphold truth and justice?
Well, that's several questions in one, I guess.
Okay, let's look at the first one. Have you ever looked into the use of magic by racist white supremacists that occupy and dominate such groups as the Illuminati and Freemasons?
Well, see, I've heard people talk about the Illuminati, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but under the 7th area of activity in religion in the textbook for victims of white supremacy, and I talk about eclectic pluralism. And now, first of all, what is eclectic pluralism? Well, that's a term that 2 words that I took out of the dictionary and put them together to describe what my religion is. And it's a religion to find the true religion. That's the definition of it. Eclectic means choosing from many, and plural means many. So I just put the 2 words together to emphasize. You look around at all the world's religions, the tribal religions, different types of religions. The caller is correct about that. There are many different types of religions. And to mention something about the Illuminati has a religion. I don't know what that is. I don't even know what the Illuminati is. I've heard people talk about it. But you don't even have to bother with that. All you got to do is stay in the question lane. Particularly when the people approach you with any kind of religion. It's only 3 things you want to know under the pluralist doctrine. Because, see, I'm just trying to find my way. Trying to find, since everybody says they have a religion, or many people say they have a religion, most people say they have one, and then other people say, I don't have religion, I don't believe in religion. Well, first of all, what is religion? Religion, according to the code, believe in. I really practice what I say that I believe in. Because if you don't practice what you say you believe in, you don't really have it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So under eclectic pluralism, which I put in the textbook, for those who don't have a religion that they can recognize as a religion and people can rely on them to have that religion, there's just three things when you're discussing religion, first of all, that you do under eclectic pluralism. There's three things. The codification is about keeping things straightforward. I mean, so you don't keep going around this in a circle all the time.
Mm-hmm. The last question was speaking about the differences, or in the drastically different to one another, and sometimes they can't be recognized. She said, in this case, what takes precedence, i.e. monotheism or paganism, in the quest to uphold truth or justice? What takes precedence over that? She's asking.
Well, in answer to the question, to the entire question of what she's saying, because she asked several things there, and a lot of the words she used has to be explained. But if you're going to just cut to the chase according to the code under eclectic pluralism, when you're talking to anybody about religion, which I think that's what she's talking about when you're talking to other people about religion, it's just three things that you do. Not a lot of things, just three. And what are they? According to the procedure in the seventh area of activity according to the counter-racist code and eclectic pluralism. You ask three questions. Stay in that question lane. Don't move out of the question lane. What are these three questions? What is the name, sir or ma'am, always be polite, of your religion? Most religions have names. They got some kind of name, okay? So you ask, first of all, what is the name of your religion? And let the person give you the name of his or her religion. That's number one. Number two, sir, ma'am, what does your religion require you to do in all 9 areas of activity? And then be patient and listen, because they will say, what 9 areas of activity? Mm-hmm. Then you give it to them.
Yes.
Because you're asking the question.
Mm-hmm.
Economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, other people's religions, sex, and war. Okay? Sir, ma'am, what does your religion require you to do in economics?
And wait for the answer.
And wait for the answer. And don't argue about the answer. Just record the answer and try to remember it. Okay? Then move to the second. Education. What does your religion require you to do when it comes to the education system that you believe in or that you follow? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you entertain yourself? The third area of activity.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have some type of entertainment in your religion? I mean, do you all play piano or something? Or do you have a choir or something? Or do you sing? Do you dance? You know, do you blow smoke rings or whatever? Okay? Entertainment. Labor. What kind of religion, what does your religion require you to do when it comes to the type of work you do and the type of work that you are prohibited from doing, and when and where? So you just ask these questions on through, you know, right on down to the last question, which is about war.
Okay.
What does your religion require you to do when it comes to fighting in a war? I mean, when it comes to killing people or people trying to kill you, what does your religion require you to do according to your religion? You're doing the talking now, I'm just listening. Okay? That's what you tell people.
Okay.
And last, but what was that?
That was yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was number two. Number three, what does your religion require you to do when you interact with me in all of these 9 areas of activity? And that's the punchline.
That's the punchline, yes.
Because that's really all you want to know about anybody's religion. I don't care, you know, what they say their religion is. At the beginning and the end of each day, all you really want to know is what the relationship between you and that person doing the talking is going to be. That's the only thing that counts.
Okay.
Now, the history of that religion and all like that, and how many gods they believe in, whether they believe in one God or 27,000. I mean, that's their business.
All righty.
You just want to know, basically, that third question.
Okay.
What does your religion require you to do when I see you coming?
Okay.
And you see me coming? So I'll know what to expect of you.
Okay.
And that's all I want to know. I don't need to know nothing else. I just want to know how you're going to relate to me.
TalkTameRadio.com is a 24/7 no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news and lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Here's three that I'm going to share with you, all in the family with S. Yolanda Robinson. Let's do this. Conversation with Don Carina, Stairway to Heaven. These are just three of the many shows that TalkTameRadio.com does carry. And all you have to do is go to the TalkTameRadio.com homepage, click on programs, and sample the ones that you select. And see if you like it or not, and hit the like button if you do, or leave a comment. You can. All this from TalkTameRadio.com, radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and we are focusing in on determined. And we also, I won't say it's a side topic, but determined to do what? We're focusing on eliminating racism, white supremacy, through justice. And if you missed the first hour, go back and listen to that, because we're trying to be specific and hone in to keep us on the straight and narrow using this right here, this book, and the title of it, The Independent. Think about that. The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. We've been taking your Gmails and answering your phone calls. Let me do this before I go on. This is one of the two things. For those of you, and I'm including this particular group, that have an Android phone, let me tell you what they're doing now. Some of you all probably are aware of it. It's called adware, which is hiding on your phone or your device. These are sneaky apps, and you need to get them out. This is by Sohos, I guess, SOPHOS. They do everything they can. Listen to this. Reminds me of white supremacy. They do everything they can to hide themselves on your device and inject crappy advertising into everything you do, in all areas of people activity. What is most damaging about these apps is their creative techniques used to bury themselves into your device to make it easier for you to forget them. Trickery for you to forget them. How about that? Forget them. In other words, they're using deceptions. These malware apps navigate under different names to refer to themselves when you're trying to find and uninstall them. They can be uninstalled, but they use confusion. So don't, you see these apps, and we're a society that has all kinds of things. Beware, because they're sneaky. They're doing things to you, gathering information that you don't know about, and they hide, just like the white supremacists do. They hide in plain sight. Okay. Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Jane, she says this to you, Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller, thank you so much. And she said, I will go to the question and answer route from now on. So she wanted to thank you for that. Okay, let's do this question here. Let's see here, going down here. Okay, bear with me. Did I get Miss Greenwich's question? I think I did, but if not, okay, we'll just select another question here. Let's see here. Okay. Okay. This is from Anthony over in England, in the concept called England. He says, Mr. Fuller, as you have mentioned on several occasions that there is no master list for the white supremacists, what are your thoughts about victims of white supremacy making up their own suspected white supremacist master list, especially for those white people who were interact with on a regular basis, whom have either directly or indirectly been violent and or deceitful toward non-white people. Now, using counter-racist logic, how should we deal with those white people after that fact has occurred? Should those white people be exposed by non-white people to everyone?
In answer to the question, according to the code, every person classified as white should be suspected of being a white supremacist if that person is able, underline able in big letters, able to be one. Every person who is classified as white, who say that they're white, they're classified as white, and who functions as white, who is able to practice white supremacy, racism, should be suspected of being one. Now, that's not harsh. That's logical. It sounds harsh. But every person classified as white, if that person is able, see, some white people are not able to be racist, like a newborn white baby.
Okay.
A newborn white baby is not able to be a racist if you go by logic. Not able to practice racism. Why? A newborn white baby doesn't know one color from another. You have to know your colors. That's number one. If you know blue from green, red from purple, brown from orange, then, and you're a white person, then you should be suspected of being a racist.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because you're in a racist system. White people are born in a system of racism. They're not born outside of it, where they can elect to be a part of a racist system. No, a white person doesn't have that option. Just like black people don't have that option. We're all born in a system that's already set up, a world government called the system of white supremacy. We're all born in that category. And white people become aware of it by being around other white people. They're not aware of it when they're born. They don't know what system they're in. They don't know anything about anything.
Mm-hmm.
But little by little, they're taught.
They're taught this. He says this, what are your thoughts about victims of white supremacy making up their own suspected white supremacist master list?
You don't have to do that because I just said it. Every white person who is able to be a white supremacist should be suspected of being a full-blown white supremacist. Period. There's no exceptions to that. Why? Because you don't have a master list that's already made up by someone else. So even if you make up a master list, you're just making up a list where, according to the code, you've already taken for granted, is this person able to be a racist?
Okay.
Does this person know one color from another? Then this person, if this person is classified as white, I don't care how nice they are, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and how many favors they do people, and how many wonderful things they do, and how many times they prove that, that they keep their promises and all like that. The person should be suspected of being a racist because the person is able to be one until when? Until racism no longer exists.
Okay.
Now, it's a practical reason for this. Some of the greatest racists who ever existed are what? In fact, the greatest of the greatest are people who are what? Able to deceive their victims.
Ah, yeah.
All right?
Okay.
That's why some of some people, some black people will say they're the black people. Now, I knew about racism. I got it down pat. And I can say that this white guy or this white woman that I know, she ain't no racist, or he ain't no racist. And I know this because I was raised up with them. I mean, right from the day, I remember, when we were just all 5 years old. That's when I first met them. And they have never done anything racist.
Okay.
I mean, now this black person is telling you this, and so you say, never, you're sure of that? No, say, I always double-checked on them. I triple-checked on them. And I can say, out of all the different white people on this planet who are racist, that this guy, Mr. So-and-so, or Mrs. So-and-so, or Miss So-and-so, ain't no racist. I'm telling you that. You can absolutely rely on that. Now, what does the code say when somebody tells you that? You say, okay, I heard what you said, sir. Or ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that same white person, this is according to the code, that you say is not a racist, and has proven to you for all these years, I mean for the last 40 or 50 years, that he or she is not a racist, that same white person has to start all over and prove it to me. See, in other words, that's that United Independent factor.
Yes.
Now, what does this mean? One black person cannot vouch that a white person is not being a racist to another black person. The code does not permit it. Why? Because there is no universal master list. You might make up a master list, but is everybody on the planet in agreement with your master list?
Gotcha.
So to keep down all that, what you don't want, confusion, you just say every white person who is able to be a racist should be suspected of being one until racism no longer exists.
Okay, from the Gmails, let's do this. This comes from Mr. Warren. He says, Mr. Fuller, would you agree that the usual suspects are killing us from food even though they say it's safe, but we can't even pronounce some of the words on the label on the back?
The answer is yes. The white supremacists are at work doing anything that is their reason for wanting to be on the planet, and that is to practice white supremacy. In order to do what? Have fun, to have glory while they're having fun, being well thought of, that's what glory is, and to produce material comfort. But it's basically in that order. The first one being fun. They get fun out of dominating and mistreating people of color. If you look at everything they do, what you call white culture, that's what it's made up of. I mean, all the little things like growing plants and putting up buildings and all like that, that's just the frame. All of it. It's just a frame. Fancy cars, going here, going there, going on vacation and whatnot. That's just the frame for the nucleus, the center. The main thing is dominating and mistreating people of color. These other things, the white supremacists know how to do them, but that doesn't really give them any core to their existence. That's the way they think. That's the way they think. If they're not dominating and mistreating people of color, they say, why do anything? Why have family reunions? Why go and visit places that look different? Why go to the moon? Why do anything if you can't dominate and mistreat people of color? That should be your reason for being.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that gives you real focus. The other things are just a frame for the domination. To be able to show off how backward they are as compared to us.
Alrighty.
How stupid they are as compared to us. That's what makes me get up in the morning. That's what makes me feel great. That's what makes me strap on a pistol and go and find some black person, just, like I do the other animals, creatures, because they're all animals. I go alligator hunting and whatnot, go squirrel hunting, and I know I got all the power over them, but every now and then I just want to go shoot a few.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to eliminate all of them, but then I eliminate my source of fun.
Yeah, fun, yeah.
Yeah, if there's no black people on the planet, how am I ever going to have fun? Next thing you know, I'll be killing the members of my own family, because I love killing. I worship it. That's the white supremacist mindset.
Okay. Before we talk about your book, Mr. Fuller, let's take this phone call. Caller, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Hello. Mr. Fuller, I wanted to ask you about us being failures under the system of racism and white supremacy. Sometimes when maybe I have a good day, or I want to feel happy about something, or celebrate about something, since I'm aware of racism, white supremacy, it always dawns that I really can't do that, because since we're still under the system, we're all failures. So could you elaborate a little bit more on that? I've heard you personally say that on programs.
Well, it's okay to have fun, but you have it within the context of having fun doing what? Since the white supremacists, logically speaking, have fun mistreating people, you have fun practicing justice, which is what this program is about. So it's not just getting rid of racism. We want to do something, or should want to do something that's never been done by anybody in recorded history. And that's two things. Guarantee that no one is mistreated, ever. No one, anywhere on the planet. And guarantee that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help at the time and place that it is needed. Right now. That's never been done by anybody. But just because it's never been done does not say it can't be done.
Thank you,
because
Colin.
that's a compensatory definition for justice. And that's where your fun comes from.
Okay.
I mean, if you're not working on trying to bring that about, then you shouldn't consider yourself of even having fun.
Okay, Mr.
But I'll go to the time and energy. I just want to say this. Go to the time and energy page. These are the ways that you do it.
Okay.
There's 4 things there. Just 4, not 400.
That's on page 60, right, of the revised?
Right. 60, 61, and 62.
Okay.
That's on the economics. The first thing in the book is economics.
Okay.
How to use your time and energy.
Okay. Now, before we talk about your book specifically, in the movie Shawshank Redemption, and we are in a global prison system, they were in greater confinement, but as we are in confinement, as some of us are beginning to open our eyes and realize, the brother said something about fun in a prison yard, in the greater confinement, is playing a sport like softball or whatever they play, basketball or lifting weights or whatever they do. Would that be considered having fun?
Well, you can say that that's fun, because look at the time and energy. Are you doing something constructive? Well, you are repairing or maintaining your body.
Okay.
All right, when you do that. So that should be your purpose, not to win the game and go around bragging about this, that, and the other. No, it's an exercise. That's all it is. You're in a prison, so you're playing basketball. Well, that's to keep your body in shape so that you don't put on too much weight, or you don't have a lot of dead weight, what they call it, and your muscles don't start getting weaker and weaker and weaker because you're in that cell most of the time. Mm-hmm. So what you do is keep your body in shape, and your mind is a part of your body. All right, that keeps your brain working, etc. You have to think when you're playing basketball. But look at the movie, like you just said, the host just said.
Well, Shawshank Redemption was the movie.
Yeah, Shawshank Redemption, right? And look at Under the Frame and Red. When they were talking, they were also doing what? Sometimes playing chess.
Yeah, yes, sir.
All right,
That's
they weren't playing basketball.
Yeah.
They were using their minds.
Okay.
Chess is a mind game.
Yes, sir.
And Under the Frame spent a lot of time making chessboards. All right, out of rocks. And that's what he would do when they were out in the prison yard. Now, he was having fun, but at the same time, he was keeping his mind active.
Okay.
His mind active in doing what? Trying to figure out how to solve problems, because that's what chess is.
Okay.
What to do, what not to do, what moves to make, what moves not to make.
Okay. All right. Good question. I mean, good answer. Let me see. Mr. Fuller, I tell you, I have a caller, but let's talk about your book briefly, and then we'll get to the call. Go ahead and speak about your book there.
Yes, you can get the book by going to producejustice.com, and I've been reading from the book this morning, the basic revised edition. Some people like the early edition, the original. That's on that website of producejustice.com too. And also the word guide, which I say is very important. It's not absolutely necessary, but it will certainly help. I think that's why I wrote it. But it's an addition. I don't even consider them as being two books, even though there are two volumes.
Yes, sir.
I would like to have crowded it into one book. I tried to do that, but the book would have been too thick to carry around.
Yes, sir.
Because the basic revised edition is over 400 pages, and the other book is over 400.
Yes,
That's
sir.
a lot of pages.
Yes, sir.
But at some time, I'm going to try to get it all in one book. And you know, someone can figure out the mathematics for doing that.
Yes.
And, right. And then you have it all in one book at a decent price. But you can get it by going to producejustice.com. And what it is, everything is directed to the individual person, what you can do as an individual, without having to say, well, we got to wait until black people get together. Forget that. The code doesn't operate on that premise. The code operates on what are you going to do today, right this moment. Everybody has this minute. This minute you're here on the planet. What are you going to do today that makes the most sense? That's what the code is designed to do. Have black people do things all day long that make the most sense wherever they happen to be on this planet called Earth.
Yes, sir.
And in this prison system called the system of white supremacy. Go to producejustice.com, and the book that I have written is supposed to help you to do that.
Okay.
If it doesn't, it's failing in its purpose.
Okay. And again, and I'm going to say this slowly, even for me, but it's just important that you understand that this is called the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. Let that sink in. All right. TalkTimeAtRadio.com. You're listening to the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am the co-host, Mr. Bobby, 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com. Right now, we're going to take a phone call. Caller, you on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. I'm calling because I was listening to what Mr. Fuller said regarding the reason why racists feel like they get up in the morning, which is to dominate and mistreat people of color. But it also made me think about a statement I once heard that Alexander the Great allegedly made, a long time ago, and that is, war is to man what childbirth is to women. And I'm going to repeat that again. War is to man what childbirth is to women. That's the most profound statement I've ever heard in my entire life. And if you have any thoughts on that, Mr. Fuller, I'd like for you to just, provide some feedback on that.
Yes.
All right.
Now, you mentioned who? Alexander the Great?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Alexander the Great, presumably, was a white person. So Alexander the Great, I heard from what little history I've heard. I heard many years ago Alexander the Great conquered a lot of non-white people. So that would fit the scenario of a white supremacist. And that he reached a place in the desert, presumably someplace in what we now call North Africa, and he looked out at that desert and he didn't see anybody as far as he could see. But it looked like a wasteland. It looked like there was nothing out there. There was no people out there. And so from what, if I recall what one of my teachers taught me before I got out of elementary school, that Alexander the Great sat down and looked over that desert from where he was sitting and said, there's nothing out there, which means there are no more worlds for me to conquer. There are no more people for me to conquer. And then he did what? Cried. Alexander the Great sat there and cried. Now, that's the main story that I remember about Alexander the Great, even to this day. Because I never, I liked history back in those days, but I forgot a lot of it. But that stands out in my mind when you mention Alexander the Great, that he sat down and cried when he looked at that vast, what he thought was a vast wasteland, and he didn't see any people moving around. It's so hot, and it's so much land, and it's all desert sand. And he says, my goodness, there's no people. It's none of these dark-skinned people. That's really what they had to be, all right, in that area, because that's who's there now.
Right.
Okay. So, hey, I'm a white supremacist. I'm supposed to be conquering people. That's my job. And the people I'm supposed to be conquering, hopefully, will be dark-skinned people, because there's so many of them. Boy, I can go forever doing this, just stomping on them wherever I find them and having them worshiping me. Oh, boy, that's how I get my kicks. Now, I have reached the point where it ain't no more of them, except the ones that I already have. And, been there, done that. I'm supposed to get some more. But it ain't no more. And so he sat down and cried.
Wow.
That's the essence of the system of white supremacy. Every person of color on the planet should understand that that is the essence of white supremacy. People have asked me sometimes, people just, generally speaking, without making a long speech, what is it that the white supremacists really want? I said, the white supremacists really want white supremacy. That's why it's so hard for black people to understand white supremacy. That's all they really want. They don't want nothing else. All this other stuff is just stuff to do on the side.
Okay.
Everything. What they really want more than anything is some non-white people to dominate and mistreat. And if they can't do that, just as soon be a rock on the moon.
Okay. Got a question from Mr. Partridge. Says this, can you ask Mr. Fuller, what is the lesson to be learned from the movie Sounder?
Oh, all of the movies that I have on that movie list of 40, which eventually, one of these days, hopefully, I'll get it up on this website, producejustice.com. But all of the movies are supposed to be movies with a number of lessons. Some movies have more lessons than others. And most of the movies are kind of what most people would call boring, really, most of them. I mean, but, going to school can be boring, but that's like going to school. But that's the best that I could do for people who don't want to do a whole lot of reading, or what reading you have done. You can learn the lessons in a movie by just knowing what lessons to look for.
So,
the movie Sounder showed basically that black people, when the more pressure they're under from the white supremacists, the more tendency we have to make the most sense. See, when the white supremacists are not as deceptive as they usually are. Like the scene in the movie where they were coming on the black people, a group of them, were going back to their shacks and whatnot. Back in the day, as they say, and they were passing by this white church, and this person, one of the black people, said that God, he was talking to God, asking God, why is it, that something to the effect of, why is it that what the white people do in their church? Because white people and black people have separate churches. And what is it that white people do in their churches? And God answered, according to the black guy who was telling the story, and God answered me and said, I don't know, because I've been trying to get in there and find out myself.
Okay.
What white people do in their churches. Because I ain't got no idea, because I'm God. I ain't got no idea what they're doing in there,
Yeah.
I got to go, implying that God got to go to the black church, to find out what, So God ain't been able to figure out what them white folks are doing in church at all.
Ooh,
so it definitely ain't proof that they're doing anything that he won't done.
Wow, okay.
That's just one thing.
Yeah.
And then also the politeness and the scene of the young boy. It's a very scene, it's an excellent scene in there, where the young boy is telling the story about saving his sister from drowning, or his brother. I forgot which.
Well, you know what? When we hear the music, you know what that is. Mr. Fuller, it's been such a pleasure today. Callers and Gmailers, it's been also a pleasure too. So thanks for listening, Mr. Fuller. Thank you for being and answering our questions for us. TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio, the way it should be heard. We'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You've got the power. The world's greatest radio. TalkTainmentRadio.com.